The Maze series, The Killing Orbit, the new series by the unknown author, Rodney Hamright. In the year 2150, the universe's most secure battle station orbits a remote planet, its steel walls encasing a vicious secret. Commander Jack Strong, renowned as the most hated leader in the Space Force, has been found dead in his quarters. The room was locked from the inside, the security scans baffled by the complete absence of clues. How could the man who struck fear into the hearts of every sentient being he encountered meet such an improbable demise? Maze Johnson, the embodiment of dedication and resilience, is brought in as a crime scene investigator to assist with the investigation. His intellect is sharp, allowing him to piece together puzzles that others find unsolvable. Get your copy today at Amazon.com or download it Audible and iTunes and listen to it on Apple Podcasts.
The Killing Orbit, Chapter 1, Strong. A bead of sweat trickled down Ensign Rowan's temple as he adjusted the calibration on the battle station's shield generator. The humming energy barrier that protected them from the cold void of space seemed to vibrate with an intensity that mirrored the oppressive atmosphere within the station. Rowan couldn't help but glance anxiously over his shoulder, half expecting the formidable figure of Commander Jack Strong to materialize behind him like a phantom. "Hey, watch it!" cried Petty Officer Malin, recoiling from a sudden electrical shock that had jolted through her console. She rubbed her hands together, attempting to alleviate the tingling sensation. "Sorry, Malin," Rowan murmured, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "My focus must have slipped." "Slipped?" Malin sneered, narrowing her eyes. "You know what happens when people slip up around here, don't you? Keep your head in the game, or you'll find yourself on the wrong end of Commander Strong's wrath." The very mention of the commander's name sent a shiver down Rowan's spine. He swallowed hard and nodded, returning his attention to the task at hand. It was impossible not to feel the weight of Commander Strong's presence, even when he wasn't physically in the room. His reputation preceded him. After all, a brutal leader whose stern gaze could seemingly peel back the layers of one's soul, exposing their deepest fears for all to see. "Has anyone seen him today?" asked Specialist Garrick, who had been carefully eavesdropping on the conversation from his station nearby. "Commander Strong, I mean. I haven't spotted him since yesterday's address." "Probably locked away in his office, brooding over some obscure tactical strategy," Malin replied, rolling her eyes. "Or maybe he's planning another motivational exercise for us. You know how much he loves those." "Either way, it's best not to dwell on it," Rowan interjected, his voice barely more than a whisper. "The commander has eyes and ears everywhere, remember?" "Right you are, Ensign," a gravelly voice boomed from the doorway, causing each crew member in the room to jump in unison. There, in all his imposing glory, stood Commander Jack Strong. His broad, muscular frame seemed to fill the entire archway, casting a long shadow that stretched across the chamber like an omen of doom. The crew instinctively straightened their posture and saluted, their faces etched with a mix of fear and respect. "Carry on, soldiers," Commander Strong said gruffly, his steely gaze sweeping over them like an icy storm. As he turned on his heel and marched down the corridor, the atmosphere within the control room seemed to lighten ever so slightly. However, the lingering dread that accompanied Commander Strong's presence clung to the air like an invisible fog, a constant reminder of the oppressive force that governed their every move. A sea of hushed whispers and the clacking of control panels filled the dimly lit battle station, punctuated by the occasional sharp hiss of steam that escaped from ancient pipes overhead. Crew members scurried about like a colony of ants, each one diligently performing their tasks while shooting furtive glances at one another, as if expecting some calamity to descend upon them at any moment. "Ensign Malin," Commander Strong's voice boomed across the room, causing a collective shudder to run down the spines of those present. "Your navigation calculations appear off. Care to explain?" Malin, a young woman with tightly braided hair that framed her pale face, swallowed hard before responding. I'm sorry, sir. I'll correct them immediately." "See that you do," he replied coldly, his eyes narrowing into slits. "Any mistake could cost us our lives out here, in the great cosmic unknown." Yes, sir," she stammered, quickly turning back to her console, her fingers flying across the keys with newfound urgency. "Hey, Rowan," whispered Ensign Draken, sidling up to his fellow crewmate, as they both worked on maintaining the station's life support system. "Have you heard the rumors?" "Rumors?" Rowan responded, feigning ignorance while keeping his gaze firmly on the task at hand. "About Commander Strong," Draken continued, leaning in even closer. "Some say he's not merely a strict disciplinarian, but rather a harbinger of death itself. They say he's survived countless battles, leaving a trail of blood and destruction in his wake." "Sounds like typical barracks gossip to me," Rowan muttered under his breath, hoping to end the conversation before it attracted unwanted attention. "He's just a man, albeit a highly decorated and terrifying one." "Perhaps," Draken conceded, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for eavesdroppers. "But mark my words, there's something unnatural about him. It wouldn't surprise me if he meets an untimely end sooner or later." "Enough!" Rowan snapped, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have our orders to follow, and idle speculation won't change that. Now let's get back to work before we find ourselves on the wrong end of Commander Strong's infamous wrath." As the two crew members returned to their duties, a subtle shift in the station's hum seemed to resonate throughout the chamber, a harbinger of the chaos that would soon be unleashed upon them all. A sudden, unearthly silence fell upon the battle station, as if the very air had been sucked out of its metallic lungs. This eerie stillness was soon shattered by the piercing cry that echoed through the cold steel corridors. "Commander Strong!" shrieked Zara, a young technician who had inadvertently stumbled upon the lifeless body of Commander Jack Strong in his locked quarters. He's dead!" The other crew members froze in place like statues in a museum of horrors, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The oppressive atmosphere that had once stifled them now gave way to a miasma of confusion and dread. "Dead?" Rowan repeated, his voice laced with incredulity. "That can't be. How could this have happened?" Draken, remembering their earlier whispered conversation, felt an icy shiver run down his spine. "It seems as though fate has caught up with our dear commander," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Quiet, you fool!" hissed Rowan, glancing around nervously for potential eavesdroppers. "This is no time for your twisted sense of humor." Zara, still trembling from her gruesome discovery, clung to Rowan for support. "What do we do now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "First, we need to inform the rest of the crew," Rowan declared, taking charge of the situation. "Then, we must secure the crime scene until we can determine what happened." As the crew dispersed to carry out their tasks, the air seemed to grow heavier, each breath laden with suspicion and unease. In the shadows, unseen forces stirred, as if awakened by the scent of blood and betrayal. Unbeknownst to them, the crew had just embarked on a perilous journey through a labyrinth of deceit and treachery, a journey from which not all would emerge unscathed. "Draken," Rowan whispered, pulling the other man aside as they walked down the dim corridor. "I need you to keep an eye on everyone. We don't know who is responsible for this, or who might be next." "Understood," Draken replied, his face a mask of stoic determination. "But I must warn you, the more we dig into this tangled web, the more likely we are to become ensnared ourselves." "Then let us hope our wits are sharper than the spider's fangs," Rowan retorted, quoting an ancient proverb from their homeworld. As they continued down the sterile hallway, each crew member's thoughts were consumed by a single chilling question. Who could have, and would have, committed such a heinous act? And what sinister secrets lay hidden in the heart of the battle station, like dormant seeds waiting to sprout into deadly blooms? For now, these questions remained unanswered, but one thing was certain. The once impenetrable fortress that was Commander Strong's reign had been breached, and chaos had begun to seep through the cracks like a malignant fog. "By the celestial heavens, it's sealed tighter than a black hole," Riker muttered in frustration as he fiddled with the lock of Commander Strong's door. The heavy metal barrier mocked them, refusing to grant access to the grisly scene that lay within. "Let me try," Adira said, elbowing Riker aside. She pulled out an intricate multi-tool, its many appendages glittering like the mechanical spider under the dim light. If I can just realign the quantum tumbler. There. Did it work? Kellen asked, leaning in closer, his eyes reflecting the anticipation that rippled through the group. Sadly, no, Adira sighed. It seems unaffected by my skills. It's as if the door itself is conspiring against us. Or perhaps, Zara interjected, her voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down their spines, the murderer has left an invisible specter to guard their secret. Zara, please, Jorah snapped, though she couldn't suppress a nervous glance at the door. We have enough on our plates without adding ghost stories to the mix. Nevertheless, Zara murmured, never breaking eye contact with Jorah. Fear has a way of manifesting into reality, especially when confined in such close quarters. Enough, bellowed Draken, his booming voice reverberating through the corridor. This is not the time for petty squabbles or eerie tales. We must find a way inside and uncover the truth. As the crew members resumed their futile attempts to unlock the door, each was plagued by a growing sense of dread. If they couldn't open this seemingly impenetrable barrier, what hope did they have of unraveling the mystery that now threatened to consume them all? And worse still, the realization crept upon them like a shadowy wraith. The murderer was one of their own, a sinister force hidden among them, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Curse this confounded contraption, Riker exclaimed, slamming his fist against the door. If only I could get my hands on the fiend who designed it, a pox on their entire lineage. Riker, calm yourself, Adira urged, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Anger will only cloud our judgment further. Indeed, Kellen chimed in, his voice as smooth as silk. Now is the time for unity, not division. We must remain vigilant if we are to uncover the serpent that slivers among us. Kellen's right, Draken agreed, casting a wary glance at each of the crew members. We must work together and trust no one until the truth stands revealed. Trust no one? Zara echoed, her eyes distant as though she was gazing into another realm entirely. For the abyss gazes back, and within its depths lie our darkest fears made flesh. An unease continued to rise like a suffocating fog. The battle station seemed to grow colder, more oppressive. The crew members, once comrades, now viewed each other through lenses of suspicion and fear. And somewhere hidden among them, a malevolent force revealed in the chaos it had sown. The air in the dimly lit corridor crackled with tension, its molecules vibrating like a cosmic symphony in disharmony. The crew members stood in a loose circle, their faces a waterfall of emotions. Relief mingling with curiosity, concern casting shadows over newfound camaraderie. Can't say I'll miss the old dog, Riker quipped, picking at a loose thread on his uniform sleeve. A few chuckles and murmurs of agreement rippled through the group like asteroids skimming the atmosphere of a far-flung planet. Regardless of our personal feelings toward Commander Strong, Adira interjected, her voice as crisp as the vacuum of space, we must consider what this means for our safety. If there's a murderer among us, none of us are safe. True, Kellen mused, stroking his chin thoughtfully. We ought to examine the potential motives and suspects. Who among us had the reason to see the commander dead? Captain Obvious here, Riker snorted, gesturing at Jorah, who glared daggers at him. She's been nursing a grudge against him for eons, like a black hole swallowing any semblance of goodwill. Enough, Riker, Zara intervened, her otherworldly iridescent eyes narrowing. Jorah may have had her differences with Commander Strong, but so did many others. Indeed, Draken chimed in, his gaze distant like he was peering into the unknown reaches of the universe. I've heard whispers of discontent from various corners of the battle station. It could be anyone. Or not just anyone, Kellen said, leaning in closer. What about the rumor of an alien infiltrator? Someone with a hidden agenda, sowing discord amongst us like a supernova ripping apart the fabric of a solar system. Maybe it's you, Riker accused, pointing a finger at Kellen. You've always wanted power, and what better way to seize it than by eliminating the competition? Preposterous, Kellen scoffed, his eyes flashing with indignant fire. I may have my ambitions, but I am no murderer. Let us not descend into baseless accusation. Adira cautioned, her voice as steady as the orbit of a celestial body. We must gather evidence, analyze every detail, and unmask the treacherous villain among us. Adira is right, Zara agreed, her gaze solemn. The stars foretold a great upheaval, and now we find ourselves in the midst of it. We must be cautious, methodical, and above all, united. As the crew members exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of their situation pressed down upon them like the gravity of a dying star. The threads of their fragile alliance strained, threatening to snap and send them hurtling into the void. And somewhere, lurking in the shadows, the sinister mastermind behind Commander Strong's murder remained shrouded in darkness, the truth hidden amongst the stars. Jorah Sen clenched her fists, her knuckles white as the distant stars that mocked her from beyond the battle station's reinforced windows. She eyed her fellow crew members with a shimmering fury that threatened to boil over like an unstable supernova. Enough speculation, she snapped, cutting through the tense atmosphere with the precision of a laser scalpel. We need a plan, and we need it before this murderer strikes again. Agreed, Adira Vex chimed in, her calculating eyes darting between each member of the uneasy alliance. But who can we trust? Even our own shadows may betray us. Trust no one, Riker Knox murmured darkly, his impulsive nature curbed by the gravity of the situation. Not even ourselves. Such pessimism is ill-suited for our present predicament, Zaravel countered, her iridescent skin shimmering as though reflecting an unseen galaxy. Distrust breeds chaos, and chaos is the enemy of truth. Perhaps, Kellen Thorne mused, stroking his chin with a practiced air of contemplation. But when faced with an enigma wrapped in a riddle, it becomes difficult to discern friend from foe, light from darkness. Indeed, Jorah agreed, her gaze flickering between her companions like a comet traversing the cosmos. We must take care not to become ensnared in our own web of suspicion. As the crew members mulled over their precarious situation, a sudden commotion reverberated through the steel corridors, drawing their attention like a magnetar's irresistible pull. What now? Riker demanded, his hand instinctively reaching for his sidearm. Only one way to find out, Adira said, her voice as cold and unforgiving as the vacuum of space. The crew hurried towards the source of the disturbance, their hearts pounding like the frantic beats of a pulsar. As they rounded a corner, they stumbled upon an unsettling sight. Commander Strong's previously locked door now stood ajar, revealing only darkness within. Impossible, Jorah breathed, her eyes widening in shock. It was sealed shut just moments ago. Who opened it? Riker questioned, his voice quivering with unease. Perhaps our elusive murderer has decided to resurface from the shadows, Kellen suggested, a hint of sardonic humor lacing his words. Or perhaps, Zara added ominously, our mysterious infiltrator is finally making their move. A chill swept through the crew members as they exchanged weary glances. The open doorway beckoned them, promising secrets that could either illuminate their path or plunge them deeper into darkness. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher, the danger more palpable. Stay vigilant, Adira warned, her gaze fixed in the gaping void before them. We are treading on treacherous ground, and one misstep may be our last. As they cautiously approached the doorway, the tension between them crackled like the electric charge of an approaching storm. The line between friend and foe had blurred, leaving only uncertainty in its wake. And somewhere, lurking in the uncharted depths of betrayal and deceit, the truth yearned to be discovered. But would it set them free, or shatter their fragile alliance beyond repair? The darkness within Commander Strong's chamber loomed like a black hole, threatening to swallow the light and security that had once been taken for granted. As the crew members inched closer, their hearts pounded in syncopated rhythm. Be on your guard, Riker muttered, his hand instinctively clasping the hilt of his laser sword. It could be a trap. Trap or not, we must uncover the truth, Jorah replied, her voice wavering with determination. She activated her wrist-mounted illuminator, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls like ghosts from forgotten nightmares. "Proceed with caution," Zara advised, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the room for any signs of danger. One false move could lead us straight into the jaws of our unseen adversary. Or perhaps, Kellen quipped, our mysterious murderer has simply decided to host an impromptu game of hide-and-seek. "Your levity is ill-timed, Kellen," Adira scolded, her brow furrowing in disapproval. "This is no laughing matter." "Apologies, my dear," Kellen replied, a mischievous glint in his eye. "I merely intended to lighten the mood." "Lighten the mood later," Riker growled. "For now, we've got a puzzle to solve." As they ventured deeper into the chamber, their senses heightened, and adrenaline coursed through their veins like liquid fire. Their eyes darted back and forth, seeking out clues amid the chaos of the crime scene. The tension between them crackled like the ionizing air surrounding a lightning bolt, each suspecting the other of harboring deadly secrets. "Something doesn't add up here," Zara mused, examining the blood-spattered floor with clinical precision. "The murder weapon doesn't match the wounds on Commander Strong's body." "Another enigma to add to the growing list," Kellen sighed, his gaze drifting towards a curious assemblage of arcane symbols etched into the wall. "And what, pray tell, is the meaning of this cryptic message?" "Perhaps it's a code," Adira suggested, her eyes narrowing in concentration. "Or a warning." "Maybe it's a recipe for disaster," Jorah joked, attempting to mask her unease with humor. "Who knew that our would-be murderer was also an amateur chef?" "Focus, all of you," Riker barked, his patience wearing thin. "This isn't a game. We need to find answers before it's too late." "Agreed," Zara said solemnly. "Time is of the essence, and our enemy is undoubtedly watching our every move." "Then let us proceed with haste," Adira urged, her voice tinged with urgency. "For the sands of time are slipping through our fingers like grains of stardust, and there is no turning back the cosmic clock." As they dove deeper into the mystery, the crew members found themselves ensnared in a labyrinthine web of intrigue and deceit. Each discovery raised more questions than answers, leaving them no closer to unmasking the identity of their cunning foe. Could it be possible, Kellen pondered out loud, that our mastermind is not among us? That some unseen force is manipulating events from the shadows? Unlikely, Zara countered, her eyes scanning the room with hawk-like intensity. The evidence suggests that one of us is the killer, whether we choose to believe it or not. "Then we must remain vigilant," Adira declared, her voice resolute. "For the moment we let our guard down is the moment our enemy will strike again." "Indeed," Riker agreed, his gaze fixed on the open doorway that led back to the cold void of space. "Let us not forget the words of the ancient Earth philosopher who once said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." "Spoken like a true leader," Jorah murmured, her admiration for Riker evident in her eyes. "Thank you," he replied, offering her a reassuring smile. "Now let's solve this mystery and bring the perpetrator to justice." As they prepared to leave the chamber, however, a sudden gust of icy wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering lights and plunging them into darkness. In that moment, an eerie silence descended upon them, broken only by the distant echoes of a sinister laughter that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the void itself. "Who goes there?" Riker demanded, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. "Show yourself, coward!" "Stay close," Adira whispered, her hand instinctively reaching for her blaster. "We are not alone." "Indeed," Zara agreed, her eyes wide with fear. "Our unseen enemy has finally revealed themselves." Or perhaps, Kellen mused, as the laughter grew louder, more malevolent, our nightmare has only just begun.
The Maze series, The Killing Orbit, the new series by the unknown author, Rodney Hamright. In the year 2150, the universe's most secure battle station orbits a remote planet, its steel walls encasing a vicious secret. Commander Jack Strong, renowned as the most hated leader in the Space Force, has been found dead in his quarters. The room was locked from the inside, the security scans baffled by the complete absence of clues. How could the man who struck fear into the hearts of every sentient being he encountered meet such an improbable demise? Maze Johnson, the embodiment of dedication and resilience, is brought in as a crime scene investigator to assist with the investigation. His intellect is sharp, allowing him to piece together puzzles that others find unsolvable. Get your copy today at Amazon.com or download it Audible and iTunes and listen to it on Apple Podcast.